this podcast. All right, let's get everything up here so I can start recording. And this episode is going to be about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's going to be the latest episode of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So there is a lot to talk about. So let's get started. Okay, I think we're ready. Are we ready? I think we're ready. Na na doo la la. I keep singing that Gaga song. Okay, let's get this. Let's get notes. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Tender Loving Care with your British reality and true crime obsessed host, myself, Pauline Bithell. Hello guys, I'm so happy to be back. Got to do a little bit of housekeeping just at the top of the episode, and that is... Number one, thank you for tuning in and listening. Always appreciated and love you all wherever you are. And you know, I'm loving looking at where I'm getting listeners from, because I told you I get like obsessed with the demographics, and I'm seeing people in Taiwan. Where else? There was Belize, Chile. So hello everyone, and thank you. But let's get on to what's going on with the poddy. So as you know, I have my Patreon, which is purely true crime reviews of true crime documentaries. So if that's your thing and you haven't already joined, guys, it's only $5 a month. Link is in the show notes. I have a ton of back catalogue of many true crime. I am going to stop this. I think I need to start this again. Sometimes that happens. I start recording and then I go, I need to start from the beginning again. So let's go from the beginning again. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tender Loving Care podcast with your reality TV and true crime obsessed host, myself, Pauline Bithell. Hello everyone, I hope you are having a bloody fabulous Saturday. I hope that if you celebrated Valentine's Day, it was awfully romantic. Now for my Valentine's Day this year, I decided that I wanted to make it someone very special, okay? And that was Keith Morrison. Keith Morrison, the host of Dateline. I think he truly deserved to be my Valentine. So if you're wondering, that's who it was. Anyway, I hope you had a fab day. I just released, guys, a very exciting episode. And it was an episode where I had the guest host of Dreams, and that is Ash Kelly from the Morbid podcast. And as you know, Morbid is one of the biggest true crime podcasts that there is. I met Ash very coincidentally in Los Angeles. We started talking about podcasts. I started talking about my podcast. She was one of the most modest, and her husband, the most modest, kindest, loving people. I just has been so supportive of the podcast, and is also a huge lover of Bravo. So Ash said she could come on the podcast, which she did, and we chatted. I mean, we could have chatted for about, honestly, like 5-6 hours. But in the end, we had to condense it a little bit, but we discussed how we got into Bravo, our favorite franchises of Housewives, like our ideal casting. We talked about side characters in all of the Bravo world. We discussed Ash going to Bluestone Manor, and then we talked everything about the latest episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which I'm going to get into. So if you have not listened to it, go and check out the episode. It was so much fun, and Ash is just an absolute dream. So it was really, really great. I think that's it for housekeeping. I don't think there's anything else. If you have any questions about the Patreon or questions about where to find episodes or merch or anything like that, best bet is to always go to Instagram, Tender Loving Care Podcast, and follow me there. I read and respond every single message and every single DM. All right, so let's get into our episode. And we are going to be talking everything Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So we are on season 14, episode 11. All right, I'm pausing that a little bit here, and I'm going to turn this a little bit like here. All right, that's perfect. Big back crazy cat, I live next door to you. I don't think you do. Gwen, hi. Hi, Gwen. All right, let's go back. That's all the intro, and then I'm just going to line this up. So that's perfect. And then I'm going to carry on recording. Let me just see. Okay, so I've done the intro now, and let's get back into recording. Okay, so this episode, let me get in here. Thumbs up. Hello, Gwen. Hi, Gwen. Someone says I live next door to you. I don't think you do, but that's okay. If you do, let me know your address. All right, so let's get back into this. I just took a little bit of break, and we are going to be discussing the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Okay. All right, we're here. Let's get into it. All right, so as I said, we are season 14, episode 11, and the title is Mind Your Business. Now, we are back in Augusta, Georgia. And listen, I know that my accent is terrible, but every time I just read Augusta, I have to say Augusta, Georgia. So we're back there, and we get these big like shots of Sutton's house, and it is so beautiful. I kept writing like that house. I was like, whoa. And you just see Sutton's first line in the episode is, oh, where would I have taken off my diamonds? I mean, it's very relatable. That's what I like about Housewives. Very, very relatable. Okay, so it's 11:18. You get Kyle coming in, and she's just been running because as we know, Kyle is never not working out. If we know a couple of things, we know that Kyle is doing, she's either wearing a hat or she's working out. Those are the two things that Kyle does. That's it. So she comes in and starts speaking with Reba, who is Sutton's mother, who has been extremely controversial. And yes, last week I did say some things on social media about Sutton's mother, Reba, that not everybody appreciated. But you know what? It was a hard week watching her. It was hard. Anyway, they have a lovely conversation. And then we get Avi coming in. Now, Avi really is just such a great side character. And he comes in to get brunch ready. And the mother, Reba, is like, I thought this was breakfast, not brunch. And he's like, well, we want to sit down nicely so you can go and get dressed and fluff yourself up a little bit, which she did not like. So anyway, then we get Garcelle coming down, to which Reba barely acknowledges her. And then Kyle kind of goes upstairs, and she's just like, oh, your mum is so great. Oh, your mum is so great. And it's just very, very typical of Kyle to just not be aware of how someone treats everybody else. Anyway, Kyle's there, just getting her hair done and everything to go and sit down for brunch. And she has her own hairstylist there, which is very nice. So we then get a lot of talk about Sutton's dad, because Sutton's in there with Kyle, I believe, in this scene. And, she said she was in her 20s when she realized that her dad was suffering from mental health issues and wasn't well. And he had been hospitalized twice with chronic depressions. And she said he was put on pills, then he was off pills, and he was self-medicating with alcohol, and he never went to therapy. Now, this was a really interesting point. He never went to therapy, but his wife, Reba, is a therapist. I don't know if she's a psychiatrist, but I know she's definitely a therapist. And she said he just became, everything was just very disjointed for him. And then in December 2002, he shot himself. And he shot himself at home where his wife was in the other room. So she's kind of telling Kyle all of this stuff and they're going through it. And then we get Garcelle comes down to RV and Reba, and they're talking about making Bloody Marys, and RV is just taking nothing from Reba. Like he is not taking any nonsense from her. She's trying to boss him around and he's just rolling his eyes the entire time. So I like that. I appreciated that. And we find out that Reba still works as a therapist and she's 82. I found that really interesting, really interesting. So yeah, then she said, see, there's things that were dropped in. I don't know if you guys noticed this, the things that dropped in. So Garcelle decides that she wants to go and speak with Reba on her own. So they kind of leave the kitchen and go to sit outside on the porch. And do you hear when Reba says, oh, I think they were talking about the heat or something like that. And Garcelle says, well, that's me being tropical. And you just hear Reba say, well, you aren't English, that's for sure. What does that mean, Reba? What does and why is your dog named Dixie? I mean, there's a lot of questions I have for that woman. Anyway, they're on the porch and it's this uncomfortable scene of Garcelle and Reba talking about Reba's relationship with her daughter. And Garcelle, I mean, it really, even though it was well intended, it was definitely not the right way to go about it. And she says to Reba, she goes, you know, I think Sutton would be really happy just to hear that you love her and to say that you're proud of her. And that Reba leans forward and she goes, well, I don't think that's any of your business. And that was a poor impression, I understand, but it was chilling. That's what I'll say about that woman. I will say she is chilling. And I think that is, that's accurate. The way she speaks, the way she looks at you, it's frightening. So anyway, they go back in and then they sit down to eat, and they've been like making this food for ages. They sit down to have a brunch. And then they talk about, there's something about grits, which grits I don't understand in general. I know people always come for the English food, but the American food, I don't understand what grits, like, and gravy and biscuits, that's another thing. Gravy and biscuits to me had no flavor. I don't understand what gravy and biscuits are. And then grits, I don't really understand either. But when they were sitting down, they were all eating and somebody was like, oh, these are nice grits. And Reba just says, these grits were obviously made by northern people, like the south and the north. There's a lot to unpack with Reba. And then Sutton decides she wants to take the girls to go and see her childhood home. Now, obviously, this is going to be very traumatic because this is where her father shot himself, and it was the last place that she saw her father. And the mother was home, and Sutton saying in her confessionals, you know, my father was suffering severely from depression. He was not in therapy. He was on different types of pills. He was self-medicating with alcohol, and there was a loaded gun in the house. I mean, it was, and her mum was a therapist. There was just a lot going on here. We kind of take a pause from that, and then we go over to see back to Beverly Hills to see Erica, who's FaceTiming with Dorit, and she's doing a ton of work in her like cabana or in her house and things like that. But she rents this place, I thought. Erica rents it. So, I mean, I know you can obviously do different things if you're renting a place, but I don't know. It seems she's doing like extensive work in here, but she just rents it. So I think she was spending 30,000. Yeah, I think it was like 32,000 to do that cabana, that outside cabana. And she just rents it. So I was confused by that, but we did not see Martin, the designer who speaks like this. We didn't see him this week, unfortunately. But it was I did think, you know, Erica, as I've kind of said before in previous episodes, Erica has been very strategic about what she was doing this season. She was coming in and knowing she didn't really have a huge storyline, that she had to play it safe and not be hated by the audience because she needed to guarantee another season. So she's, like I say, she's playing it safe, she's playing it nice. And then there is something that she speaks about that I do actually think is quite inspiring. I think that it is, she talks about, I'm in a position now where I'm actually wanting to get up and get out of bed, and I'm not sleeping till noon. And she goes, and that's if there were days when I was even getting out of bed. And she says it's been 5 years of this. And I think it was very, very inspiring actually to say, she's a woman. I think she turned 50. I think that's what Erica is. And, the past 5 years have been hellacious for her, and she is still determined she's going to come out on top. And currently she's on Broadway. So, anything is possible, guys. I think that's what we take from that. Anything is possible. We see Bose and her daughter, Lael, I think that's how you pronounce it. She is lovely. They seem to have a very close relationship, and she just seems absolutely gorgeous. And they were sat there, and did you see all those snacks? I wanted all of those snacks. Like, that's what I was really interested in. Anyway, they're kind of talking about Keeley, who I've told you I don't trust. I do not trust Keeley. And I'll tell you, it goes back to the very first episode that we saw him. He did a beach picnic for Bose, and they were on the beach, and she was talking about love, and she was talking about how happy she was in the relationship. And then he gets his champagne glass, and what he toasts to is business. And I didn't like that. I thought it was a big red flag, and I think Bose needs to run. And then he's saying that he wants to have a baby with her, and she's an extremely wealthy, very accomplished woman, and it just frightens me. So Lael is being very cool about everything. She's just saying, well, whatever you want, Mum, whatever will make you happy. But Bose is 48, and she's saying, well, I'd like to have a child sooner rather than later. Now that's worrying, because we want to protect Bose, and if she rushes into anything with Keeley, it's frightening, because even though she's an extremely smart woman, when someone's in love, you never know what can happen. So we then go back to Georgia, and we see Kyle and Sutton and Garcelle piling into the car to go and see this childhood home, which is going to be quite traumatic. And Kyle this is a very Kyle comment. She gets in the car and she just says to Sutton, oh, I'm so obsessed with your mum. And it's very Kyle, because Kyle only ever sees what's in front of her. She always defends somebody that can have really, really bad behavior to somebody else by saying, well, she wasn't mean to me. And I hate that type of thinking, because you can't judge someone just on how they treat you. It's how they treat others. And this Reba has been awful to Garcelle. Let's just be real. She's been horrible to her. And yet Kyle's like, oh, your mum's amazing because she's being nice to her. Like, I don't like it. Anyway, they're driving over to the house. Now, I was actually quite surprised by this. We know Sutton's background is, we know that she was obviously born and raised in Augusta. She went to New York to pursue dancing. And we found out that she, worked at Starbucks. So it sounded like she was a regular, kind of college student. But then we also heard that she was a debutante in the South. And that's only for like very well-to-do families. And she's obviously majorly wealthy now. Let's not forget, her monthly alimony after taxes is $300,000. She gets $300,000 a month after taxes in alimony. And that's just alimony. That's not her investments. It is a wild amount of money. And she got all of that from Christian, her ex-husband, who she knew in school, I believe. They think they grew up together, and they married, and they had the 3 children, and he became extremely, extremely successful. But I was under the impression she was brought up very wealthy. But we get to her childhood home, and it's just a very ordinary home. It's very modest, very, very ordinary home. And we see some flashbacks of her talking to her brother, John Clark. And she takes Garcelle and she takes Kyle around the house, and she's saying, this was the last place I saw my dad alive, and he was very highly medicated. And it's a very, very dark episode. in Sutton's life, obviously, it was the end of her father's life, and it was her being back in this place. And I think it was very courageous of her to be able to be there. I don't know if I could, but she did very, very well, and I think Kyle and Garcelle really appreciated, but I'm still stuck. And myself and Ash discussed this in our episode of why Kyle was on this trip to Georgia. It doesn't make much sense why Kyle was invited. I think we came to the conclusion that it was probably production, that production was like, we don't have a lot of scenes with Kyle, let's get her to go with her. Because here's the bottom line, Sutton doesn't like Kyle. Sutton doesn't like Kyle, and she doesn't like Dorit. So to have her on such a deeply personal trip, I find it very, very odd, but I think it was down to production. We then go back to LA and we see Dorit, Bose, and Erica at Grandmaster Records restaurant. That's just on Cahuenga in Hollywood. And they're all seeing each other for the first time since Kathy's house and Kathy's dinner party. So they're all kind of chatting about that and chatting about Dorit and Piqué. And Keeley and then Bose brings up a big shocker that, she's thinking about having a child with Keeley, that she sees it moving very quickly with him, but oh, guess what? We've actually never said I love you to each other. And Erica and Dorit are stunned, and I understand why. They've been together, I think, maybe 9 months or something like that. So I don't know what all of that was about. It was very, very strange. But once again, that's why I don't trust Keeley. I think he just likes the screen time too much. He's been on our screens a lot just in these few episodes, which we always get a little bit nervous about when we see guys coming in to our housewives and in their world, and they're taking over the gals' screen time. I don't like it. And I don't like the way he talks about business. I don't like the huge amount of promises that he's making Bose. I just don't trust it, guys. So she then says this line, which also scares me a little bit. She says, I'm acting on the belief that he loves me. Now, I dissected that probably more than I should, but you're thinking of having a child with someone very, very quickly after knowing them a few months. You're a very wealthy woman. He hasn't said I love you, and you're just acting on the belief that he loves you. But you don't know it for sure. Red flags is all I say. Red flags everywhere. That's what I think. I love Bose, but I just think this guy is a disaster. And I don't know now how much, because they have to be really careful on the social media, but I don't know if she's still with him. I don't know. Anyway, then we get Dorit giving an update to everyone, and she talks about how she's spoken to Piqué, and she says it was great. She's like, it was great. We were talking like old friends. It was a great conversation. And Bose just said, this feels like a trick. And she was completely right. I think all of us in the audience just went, yeah, exactly. And Bose and Erica are correct. They basically tell Dorit, listen, he is preparing for a war with you, and he's trying to manipulate you to give you what you want, which is this unity of a family kind of unit for your children. And I just don't think it's real. I don't think anything. She says, I think Piqué is going to be ruthless in the divorce. And I agree. I mean, once again, Ash and I were discussing this in the last episode, and Piqué is doing what it sounds like he did to his first wife. Because he had a wife and before Dorit and children with them, and he was the lad around town in London with pots of money, then divorced her, lost all the money, and then found Dorit, married her, made some money again. She got famous, he got jealous, and now he's on to wife number 3. And I told you my prediction, I said at the top of the year, my Bravo predictions for the year is that Piqué will be, I think he will be engaged to a woman maybe 29 plus by the end of the year. Guarantee you. He's going to do the same that they all do, and then she'll be pregnant, because it proves that he's still virile and young, and guarantee you that's what's going to happen. Anyway, so that at least they're giving it straight to Dorit. I think that's important. They're telling her how it is, and we all need friends like that sometimes, you know. All right, where do we go then? Oh, we did get a little bit of Kathy. I know we're all missing Kathy desperately, desperately, but we get a classic Kathy moment of Kyle. She's FaceTiming her, and she says to Kathy, Kathy, don't put your phone to your ear when you're FaceTiming me. And I was like, oh, this is perfect, Kathy. We miss her so much. We hear that Mo and Portia are leaving for Europe. They're going to a couple of countries in Europe. And then he's off to meet PK in Saint-Tropez. And I just thought, oh, Maurizio. And just a reminder for everyone, I call him Maurizio because that's how Ken Todd says Mauricio. So that's why I say Maurizio. But yeah, he was going to go and meet PK in Saint-Tropez, the two like single now guys with pots. Well, Mauricio's got pots of money. Maurizio's got pots of money in Saint-Tropez. I was like, this is just so, it's so cliche. And where are the kids? Oh, back with the mothers. Well, the mothers look after them. Ugh. Anyway, who do we get next? We get Kyle and Garcelle are talking about Sutton, because Sutton is preparing crab cakes for a dinner with her mother. And the reason this is so special is because that was her father's recipe and her father's like favorite food. And so apparently the day after he killed himself, Sutton's mother asked her to make these crab cakes. So we see Reba leaving her house on the property to go into the main house to go and meet with Sutton for this dinner. And Kyle and Garcelle make themselves scarce, except they're actually around the corner listening to everything. And we see Reba leave her dog named Dixie. Just going to leave that there. So Sutton is making, making food, and then she shows her the clothes from her capsule collection. And she says, this is what I'm doing. And I what do you think? And she's like, oh, well, I wouldn't look good in that. And Sutton's like, that's not what I wanted to hear. I want to hear that you're proud of me. I want to hear that, this is how it's done. It has to get sent from California to London to here and there. And it's not easy. And Sutton keeps having to emphasize, this is a job. Like, this is hard, this is hard. Just aching for her mother to say, well done. I understand. I appreciate it's hard work. And that's amazing. And instead she says, it reminds me of ground beef. And Sutton says, what? And she goes, well, the process of you having to get your clothes from one place to another with barcodes and things like that. It reminds me of ground beef. It's just so passive aggressive and dismissive of Sutton and everything that Sutton doesn't want to hear. So you see Kyle and Garcelle are kind of creeping on the stairs listening, and we have her really speaking to her mum about how she needs to hear that, or she wants to hear from her mother that her mother's proud of her because she's done a lot. She went through this divorce with this ex-husband. She's raised 3 children. She's got this business. But the mother says, I don't need to tell you that I'm proud of you. You should know that. And she said, I also, you don't, she goes on to this kind of rant about the mother, about how I think saying I love you is overused. And I don't think it's necessary to say. I think it's much more meaningful the less you say it. Now, I understand where she's coming from in that in theory, okay? But I'm someone that says I love you to every animal I meet, whether it's a bird, whether it's a Pomeranian, like I'll say it all the time. And I like saying it, and I think the world would be a much better place if we did say it more. So I don't agree with the mother, but this is her old school mentality of mothering. She never said I love you to her children on a regular basis. That's just how she is. She thinks it's overused, and that's it. And I don't understand it. Well, it's not that I don't understand it. I understand the thought, but I think that thought needs to be erased, because look at the state of the world. Come on. Saying I love you, if it is overused, if that's the worst thing you're doing, then you are living a good life. That's my opinion. Anyway, they kind of go back and forth in this. And in the end, they definitely kind of come to a realization, and Sutton says, I need you in my life. I need you to make more of an effort. And she does say, I will make more of an effort and I'll come to your show in LA. So I think it's good. I think, you know, the mother, Reba, is learning that just because that's what it was and that's how it was doesn't mean that's how it should be now. Things can change. And Reba coming to California, it was a good conversation, and she said we can do better, both of them. So it ended with Kyle, her going, Sutton going around the corner to say to Kyle and Garcelle, oh, come down for dinner. And they had to scatter because they'd been watching everything. And it was beautiful the way Kyle ran up the stairs, and then immediately that actress in her turned around and was improvising as if she was on her phone walking down the stairs. It was beautiful work. It really was. So this episode was definitely a heavy one because we were in Augusta and we were dealing with Sutton's dad's suicide and her relationship with her mother. So it was really, really heavy. So I'm hoping we're going to get some levity soon. I know we have a cast trip coming up, and that needs to come up pretty quickly because usually I think we have like 2 or 3 trips in a season, and we've only had one small trip so far. So I need the gals on a big trip, and I want a lot of drama, a lot of fighting over expensive dinners, and I'll be happy. And some side characters always help. And that Avi, the more side glances he can do, the more snarky comments he can make, I am very, very interested in it. All right, guys, I am going to love you and leave you. This is the end of the episode for Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You can follow me on Instagram, Tender Loving Care Podcast, and I read and respond to every single comment and message. Thank you so much for your support. You can join my Patreon by going to the show notes, or go to patreon.com/Tender Loving Care Podcast. All right, have a fabulous rest of your day. I will be back very soon with some new episodes. Love you lots and jelly tots. Bye-bye. Okay, that is this ended. So now I need to put the episode together. All right, if you haven't already, if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe, that would be great. Thank you very much. And let me know where you are redheaded. Hello, where you are watching from. That would be really cool. All right, so let's just see this intro. Hi.
Hello.
Let me know where you are watching from.
Another episode of Tender Loving Care.
Okay, good. So we've got the intro in. I just need to make sure that everything lines up properly. Because I did do a couple of cuts here. But I think this was only 25 minutes, this episode. Sometimes it depends how much was going on in an episode, and it might be a little bit longer. But the last episode I did that I just released, it was an hour and 14 minutes, I think. But this one was only 25. This is just recapping Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the latest episode. And there wasn't a huge amount in the episode, really. I mean, there was and there wasn't. It was just based kind of around one theme. So that is that. All right, just let me get this back. Get this outro music in. Hello. Let me know where you are watching from. I'm currently editing this podcast because I just finished recording. I need some water. Okay. This was an episode on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, if you didn't catch it. So I'm just going to play the outro here to make sure it all lines up, and then I can publish it and you can go and listen to it anywhere you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Okay, let me see if this lines up.
Very soon with some new episodes. Love you lots and jelly tots. Bye-bye.
Okay. Perfect. I'm going to release this straight away, which is going to be good because I have the other episode that I just released as well. So releasing 2 episodes on a Saturday is good. All right, come on. I'm going to release this now, and you can find it everywhere on, like I say, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, Tender Loving Care Podcast, and follow me on Instagram at Tender Loving Care Podcast. I read and respond to every message and every comment, and TikTok is the same, and email address is tenderlovingcarepod@gmail.com. All right, done. So that's done. That's good. All right, let's save this. What am I calling this? BH latest. All right. Eyebrows are squiggly. All right, that is it downloaded. So let me upload it onto my server, and that is the end of the podcast because I've just recorded it, everything. I'm going to upload now, and you can find it at Tender Loving Care Podcast. Bye-bye.